So we'll get started. It's probably 7:07 or something now, but,
05, actually.
yeah, close enough. So we'll call it to order. Everybody get a look at the minutes from the last meeting?
Yeah, it's weird. I don't remember these being highlighted in yellow.
Well, yeah.
They were?
Well,
That's
That's a requirement for any
Yeah.
expenditures. When
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I must.
Peter Treasurer,
Royce.
Peter Royce and I had a conversation at a diner that used to exist down the street.
Balls.
Phil's.
But
Phil's?
no, the one that became the Good and Plenty.
Oh, okay.
When that existed. And there were communication issues between the Conservation Commission and the treasurer. And we hit on this idea.
there was something that I wanted to highlight, not that way, but that didn't seem quite right. Yeah, the TIF district. I guess we weren't really voting on the TIF district per se. It was the purchase of the land. So we should clarify that, just so, obviously the town votes.
so how would
People.
you?
Just say approve the purchase of the lot in question, I guess, under the TIF work process. Something.
Weren't there two things that had to do with it though?
I got it.
Well, there's actually putting the TIF in place to raise the money, but they want the additional distance and said, they told the town what we're gonna do with the money, which is we're gonna make something out of this rather than have it become a Walgreens.
Yeah. Okay.
But if you want to get picky, there is no place to pick up a prescription in town, but
So I guess technically that wasn't what was voted on. It was just to set up the supported on the idea that they would purchase the land. And so now we're approving, as much as we can.
The open space.
Yeah, the purchase of that land.
Yeah.
So
Is the land.
just to clarify it, so.
well, I could see either the BCC or the Trails Committee call the two projects. There is a trail that goes from the library to the center.
Right.
It could be cleaned up and made useful.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there's that 10 or 13 acres. I forget what that chunk is, but
Open space.
the open space will most likely, if it's going to have the flavor of Barrington, it's probably for a role for us in there to help with, contributing to that. I assume they'll be calling.
Yeah,
Maybe
actually,
a team
Connor mentioned that, I think, that.
And
they
maybe
wanna be-
let's do what some of the other, hopefully some of the other groups did, which is, call citizens in and say, okay, this is what we got.
Right.
Let's start spitballing ideas for what you'd like it to be. Because I can tell you, there'll be people who want to play pickleball, but
Right.
anybody that lives around it won't like it.
Yeah.
And there'll be people that will say this and that.
Right. But certainly as far as trails, we want to make sure it has some continuity and there's some existing trails. I think there's a snowmobile trail that goes into there. I see people all the time coming out of the woods into Caleb's
Right.
backyard.
Oh, you're talking about coming from the
And
north
the
side.
trail to the library.
Yeah, that we got to figure out.
Yeah.
Is that trail something that we could actually clean up? And
Oh,
what's-
I checked it. I tell you, I checked it out.
Yeah.
Just before we got it officially, I went back there and
Yeah.
it turns out there's even a bridge over the little creek there.
Yeah.
So we just got to clear out some of the dead trees and stuff.
Yeah, but I could see maybe working with the library and naming it after a famous New Hampshire author or something.
Something like it, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not much of a trail. It's gonna be
No.
like 30 yards.
But
and
people-
next to.
Are the ownership issues all cleared then?
Well, they still got to.
That's a question. I mean, it's a right of way, so I don't know. But I believe it's owned, someone in the Caliph land owns the land, I believe. But yeah, we probably, before we make an official trail, we ought to make sure because it does go off of the actual library property. It's kind of right in between where the two parking lots feed up, right? It's like straight through there.
I mean, long term, the town is hoping for an access road from
Right.
through there too.
But at the very least, to do it pretty easily, I think, is create a trail.
And then there's
So
a
you're-
railroad trail too, right? That's beyond that. Along 125, something like railroad.
Yeah, it would connect to the
Connect to
railroad
that.
trail. That's why it's very little to actually do because you're just going up a little slope and moving right on on that
That
trail.
wants to know if we approve the minutes. though.
Yeah.
Well, I also
Were
want
you
to
able
know, so just say approve the inclusion of the open space in the TIF district? What actually did you do?
Well, it's approving the purchase of the land behind Kalis or however it's.
So it wasn't so much approving, it was in support of, right?
Yeah,
Support it,
obviously,
okay.
we don't,
Yeah.
final call. But yeah,
What
supporting,
Rob said.
yeah,
Yeah.
Okay, support it,
yeah,
Yeah, we can't really prove much of it.
okay.
yeah. So,
And-
are there?
Yeah, sometimes we're asked, for example, for the solar stuff that the town is asking, we're sort of asking for. They do, I think it was put as approval, does the conservation, what's the conservation commission's take on this? So I think support is a good word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think in this case, they need to actually get our.
Yeah.
stamp
Well, we should always ask, when anybody raises an issue, are you looking for advice of the BCC or just our position?
on.
Because, within this group of people that could provide useful advice on certain things. And then there's just, maybe they want to make sure that there's no one going to come after them and impose something.
Well, we were specifically requested to.
Yeah. Okay.
Support it, approve it, whatever, so, Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting.
okay. All in favor?
As amended.
As amended. All in favor?
Yes.
I will need a copy sent to me to
Okay, for,
approve copy.
I send one to Peter too, so,
Okay, well, I need one for my records. So
okay.
approve it, because the request form for money says include the minutes.
Well,
And I've got a couple of them standing by.
yeah,
Um,
all right, treasurer's report. Yeah,
for Peter Royce, we had a small deposit, I'm assuming it was land use change tax of $1,100 on March 5th. We earned interest of $1,401.40 on 3/25. The balance now of $553,769.57.
You can almost buy a house for that.
Not up here, you can't. These days. Might be a double wide on Barrington Road. One other thing that you guys did that was in the minutes there that I looked into was relative to turtle crossing signs. I went out and took a picture of the only one that seems to be still remaining. And Pat had some history on this, John Wallace did, and also Mark Barrow did. So I don't think we're gonna be able to get that exact sign again cheaply, because I couldn't find anybody that was selling crossing the turtle logo next 2 miles. That's what.
and the hinges, right?
And well, the hinges, Moreau is not up on that. Matter of fact, he recommends not, because here's the problem. He goes, ever since, COVID kind of has gone away, he goes, we're replacing a lot of signs. Kids are stealing them left and right. And they even got these special fasteners they put on that if you don't come out with the right tool, you'll just shear it off, but it won't loosen it up. And he says, but it hasn't stopped people. They're either reverting to the chisel, or they would go with, they just pull the damn post out of and put it in the back of their truck and they drive off.
So anyway,
That's why
we
we're
don't-
missing 3 signs. So he's saying the hinge one's gonna be a lot more expensive. Now, the question is, he gave me, I might have to get them custom if I want the same wording. Because I can't seem to find any online that say next 2 miles.
I'm not sure.
Well, that's the way they were laid out before.
I know, but
You know,
I think.
Well, that's why I wanted to miss it.
they're both there, it kind of marks out the 2 miles, right? I presume they're.
Well, I don't know. When you put a turtle crossing, let's say we just put, turtle crossing, like, I think the one I picked out was a big turtle and a few babies. Always go for the kids, right? And people see it, I'd hope they just keep an eye out. But it kind of leaves it, how far?
Yeah, right.
On Screw Pond, if you know anything about the road, there's tons of bodies of water there.
Right.
I almost want to say, watch out for turtles.
Yeah.
But probably.
But for a generic one, it might be a little bit more expensive. We'll have to price it out, only because they want 30 inches. But Mark said he would get us the posts, get us the fasteners that prevent we'll say the non-chisel arm
They're
people
called
from
cancel
stealing it.
resistant.
Yeah. But they're not really, because
They're resistant, but they're not proof.
no, they found some and they wouldn't chisel. and he put them up.
Well, that's good. So we had previously approved purchasing them? or-
Yeah, but I mean, when I went to, put everything together for what to do, and I said, geez,
You can.
I can't replicate those hinged ones. Yeah, she gave me information as the people at the prison.
Yeah.
And then the town buys from a firm down in Epping, New England Barricade. He gave me their contact information. I could probably get the best rate from them, especially if I go with something simple. And the third alternative is go with the online company that was showing pictures.
Mhm. So do folks agree we should go with the cheapest version or?
Yeah, I figured
Yeah,
getting something up to protect the turtles first.
Given that probably not gonna
Let's just
last
get something done.
long. It'd be good to get them up.
I feel bad
Well,
that
it's
I
in
can't
season.
remember, because Holly and I picked them up in Concord somewhere
Yeah.
at some state agency.
Yeah.
And I made calls and everybody's like, who, me?
They call themselves NHCI, which I'm assuming it's like New Hampshire Correctional Industry.
No, we did not pick them up at the.
No, not the prison, because I'm sure they've got
Yeah,
a
so.
way of bringing them out, because getting the customers go to prison.
They were in
You
some
can,
big,
I mean, when you have your furniture reupholstered, you go to the prison.
Yeah, well, but state signs might be a different matter.
Yeah.
the state signs are made at the prison.
Yeah,
Um,
on the license plates.
Everybody I talked to on the phone denied it was them. I was in this big airplane hangar sized room. It had sort of cubbies on the side.
Yeah, I've been in that for a time.
And it wasn't the prison.
Yeah, but I mean, it was an area there where it was all these, it's almost like an industrial park. for the government.
Some employee that John Wallace was in touch with
Yeah,
said, here are your signs, take them home.
Yeah.
And I did. I can't remember where
Yeah.
it was though.
and John says he thinks they might have been like leftovers or something. If we somehow got them. I will move on that if anything.
So do you feel like you have enough?
Yeah.
And the hinges are useless. I agree. The hinges are
Well, I
useless.
asked.
Well, it's more trouble.
So what if they're up all year?
Well, I asked Moreau, I said, I don't think I've ever seen the sign flip down, and I've been here 6 years, so. Tell us we need it. And he goes, no, especially when they're gonna steal it. All right, that's
Okay, well, let us know, I guess. If you have any
other than
patches
that, I'm
that
gonna move on the dues and. And I got John's gonna give me the big tree where to send the check once he gets. So they
Yeah, and there were some other signs for the Trails Committee.
That's gonna be a reimbursement once I get these.
Yeah.
I already submitted the one. I found out we approved the one on NHACC last fall for some reason. It never got paid.
The membership?
Yeah.
It's not the new year? or-
No, I checked that the invoice is the same number, and it's for the same time period.
Really?
That was they were nice in their email not to say,
Yeah.
what the hell are you guys?
Years. Well, whatever. Okay. Let's get
So
it
that's
done.
why I processed it today, and Amy's told me it's the check will be cut. So
All right. Anything else on money? Good. Before we get into the new business, I do have an announcement for the next meeting, April 11th. I contacted Cell. We talked about wanting to know more, and several people have inquired about the new Cell properties. If you get their hard copy newsletter, not the online one, they actually have a map of Barrington showing all the new sites. But anyway, I thought let's get somebody in live to talk about it. So not Dwayne, but Lori Summer, I guess, is relatively new. It's Celt. She's kind of the, I think, Seacoast or Great Bay Region Conservation Coordinator. I don't know her official title, but anyway, she's planning to be here. So please come if you want to hear more about that. These are several Bedford properties, also the O'Connell property, and also they're looking at a site, a big property on Ayers Lake, actually. So should be pretty interesting. So it's coming up. So a new business, our main business for the evening really, is to talk about Young Road. And we talked some about it last meeting, but Ken wasn't here and we wanted to, since he kind of instigated the latest move, I guess, or between Ken and Paul. You want to
promoted lively discussion.
Yes.
Instigated is that.
Well, yeah.
So, Paul, you spoke at the last planning board meeting, and you said, speaking for me, not Conservation Commission policy. And so for openers, I think we should endorse what Paul said and say, this is what the Conservation Commission thinks. Basically, the takeaway is reject this thing.
Mhm.
And I'm going to say some things that, and make a suggestion that in my knowledge hasn't been made before in Barrington. And I don't want to get the commission into taking a stand that is a kind of a hot potato necessarily, unless you really, really want to do it. I mean, let's face it. I mean, I probably won't re-up my membership in the commission in a year. And so I don't want to start something, unless it's important to start it. So, so here's what I'm thinking. One, we should do that. Say what Paul said. That's what we think. And the reason I think maybe more than that is called for is that a couple of things that the developer, the applicant, seems to be saying are really not, in my opinion, community minded, to say the least. And both the applicant and the spokesperson, the engineer for the applicant, are Barrington people. And yet they've said basically, and that the way in which conservation subdivisions are intended to be isn't the way they'd like conservation commissions to be.
Conservation subdivisions.
Conservation subdivisions to be. They've said the intents of these, the reason for them, and in fact they've said it doesn't matter to us. We want to work around those intents.
I think they've denied that those intents mean it.
Yeah, and clearly they're saying to us and to the planning board and to the citizens of Barrington, it's not important to us that those things are important to you. What's important to us is that we get this thing done. And that's unpleasant from people who are Barrington people, to say the least. The other thing that they did in talking about the project is to, kind of like in a basketball game where a foul isn't called and a basketball player says, well, no, a foul is called. And the player says, you didn't call it on him when he did the same thing earlier. And they kind of did that with some of the discussion to say, well, there are, other projects around town, some of which we were involved in, and you let these things go. If you don't call the foul earlier, you can't call it now. Well, that's not true in basketball, and it shouldn't be true in life. I don't think.
Yeah.
So it kind of makes me mad,
So go
yeah.
on.
Yeah. So what I think is that, and I wasn't at that last meeting, and I know there was a lot of lawyer talk.
Mhm.
And so because there's lawyer talk back and forth, it means to me that if the planning board denies the applicant and the applicant chooses to litigate, to sue the town, there's a case. Might be a losing case or it might be a winning case. But it seems to me if there's a case, this is important enough that shame on us, shame on the planning board, shame on Barrington if we just go, oh, we don't want to, we don't want to be in court. So, we'll just hold our noses and let it go.
So question for you. This would, however, hinge on the planning board denying the application. Right?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
That's what I wasn't.
Yeah. The planning board, the first move the planning board would have to make would be to say no. And then the applicant can say, well, see you in court, and could sue the town for, I don't know, malfeasance or something, or for not following its own rules or something like that. And it seems to me, because of that discussion between lawyers there, and because the applicant was willing to show us some shiny objects in terms of, having some control over the conservation area, the conserved area of the subdivision, that, maybe the right thing could happen. But it would have to, I think, at this point, be based on the planning board saying, no, we're not going to do this. Thanks for showing us the shiny objects. But, and we should say that too, that we would like the planning board to deny the project. That's one. The more controversial thing, and I just want to say it out loud, I won't push you strongly to do this, and I'm not sure whether what I'm going to say should be done at the open planning board meeting. And I've made it public, my opinion public, by saying it here because now it's in the minutes.
Yes.
But if we were to be in favor of doing something like that, what I'm going to say is we could talk to the chair of the planning board privately and say, would you like it if the Conservation Commission did this? Or we could bring it right to that next planning board meeting. And that's this, to say, if the applicant sues the town of Barrington, the Conservation Commission is willing to retain its own counsel and present what's called an amicus curiae brief to the court in support of the town.
That's a friend of the court.
Friend of the court. And that's done, if you follow the Supreme Court and stuff like that all the time, that's done all the time.
And we retain our counsel mainly to draft that brief?
Yes, and to appear.
And presumably it would be the
appear.
town attorney.
No,
We get
no, the town attorney would represent the town.
Right.
And defend
Right.
the town. And the Conservation Commission could retain its own counsel who would present separate arguments and separate kinds of evidence in support of the town as well.
I'm just wondering, how would that be funded? Would it come out of the conservation?
It would come out of the conservation fund. So, and look, what the Conservation Commission loves to do, and I've been here and watched us do it, is to conserve land. Throwing money at a lawyer, that means less money to conserve land. And so that's the argument against doing anything like that. And we could, just say, turn it down. If you get sued, we'll root for you. But I'm saying we could take one step further.
How much value does that add versus just having a statement that says?
I don't know. I don't know the answer.
It has been my impression that there have been cases before the planning board that have not been denied because the town was primarily afraid of getting into a suit situation. So my feeling is that more support needs to be lent to the planning board to take something like this on.
Could we craft our position with, and there's been, I know we've talked about all the things we were concerned about, but some of them aren't in our wheelhouse. I know you had a good one about the fact that they're not clustered, they're not off on a separate road.
Yeah,
And I know we expressed concern about all those driveways, although that probably has nothing to do with us. If we could quote the conservation subdivision article, well, we think that is not meeting the spirit or the word of it, and we should be looking for shoulds and shalls there to see if there's actually something that helps us. That would be a good one. The fact that, and the one I don't have the legal ease for, is the fact that when we ask questions about flow of water down the hill from the culvert down into that pond that eventually makes it to Portsmouth, there doesn't seem to be many answers because, that's up to the builder. And we're not really getting many answers. And I'm sorry, but the down slope and the pond are there now. And you think they would have some answers for some of these questions.
I
Well, they
think
don't
tho-
want to.
Yeah, I
Well, they don't
think
want to,
those are
but they
the
don't need
issues
to.
that the town attorney is dealing with and the planning board is concerned with. I think these are the issues that we're concerned with and you.
Can we, if you draft a statement, run it through the town attorney? Seems like
I'm sure.
that would be a wise thing to do.
Because I assume in the end, the town attorney is gonna add up everything they got. Say, what kind of leg do we got to stand on if we say no? Or are we gonna,
Right.
this is just a temporary thing and we're gonna get either the town won't pay to defend the suit against the suit, or they could lose it anyways.
Well, and we may talk to an attorney, we're trying to get a friend of the court statement, and they may tell us that in fact, this is very weak. I mean, I can't judge that. And I read it through and I see this stuff and I say, these are the points that I see as important. Yeah, anyone we hire should read those ordinances through themselves and see what they think. Let us know.
But I agree with at least arming the planning board and kind of aware with our feelings on this.
Yeah.
Maybe it either more information from us. Hopefully, they can at least make a best informed decision. Now, whether if the overriding thing is the town don't want a lawsuit, it could lose. It's gonna be hard to overcome that.
Gotta play the game, you know?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
You know?
and the ball's really in the developer's court. I mean, I think we probably said at the last meeting, but, Paul and I were at that last BB meeting and there was a real impasse. I mean, they basically said, we disagree. I mean, I think if you go through the minutes, which I did recently.
Well,
there's several
watch,
points.
it is on
Yeah,
YouTube.
video, yeah.
So it's.
It's pretty clear that they just were not going to agree and, the planning board seems to, taking a more assertive stance.
They are.
So
Definitely.
so it seems like they would be open to what we have to offer, suggest.
Well, I mean, we could go halfway too, which would be to. Do you think they're at a decision-making point come Tuesday?
Well,
I've thought that before, so I don't
believe
know.
in the last agenda, they had a thing saying the developer, whatever, the applicant requests a decision. Now, I'm sure it's up to the planning board if they want to.
Do they, I
Make
mean,
one,
there's
but-
still some outstanding things. So there's an ecological study. I don't know if there's a hydrological study outstanding.
Well, it seemed like one of the key things that they hadn't determined was the square footage of impervious surface, right? There's, and if it's over 100,000 feet total, from all these
Oh,
driveways, then it gets kicked up to the state, and then the state has to decide whether they need a
An
permit.
alteration of terrain.
Right, which I don't know how complicated that is,
So,
but
If
it's
they,
another
I
layer.
don't know if they're going to wait for those issues to be resolved before coming to a decision, or if they're going to say, we have enough information already. We don't want to object. And that will be,
So that's hard to see.
Yeah,
Because I was thinking, given a little more time, I mean, we could go halfway to what I suggested as a possibility and simply talk to it.
yeah. We should probably talk to the planning board and at least see what the schedule, their thoughts on the schedule are.
Mhm.
Because you're right, it would be good to have that.
Yeah.
well, we could perhaps do this in two stages. We could, approve this part,
Yeah, that
saying
we
we
should do.
recommend you
Yeah, that should be
vote it
good.
down, and then wait and see what happens with the rest, because it seems unlikely at this point the planning board is gonna make a decision Tuesday, but who knows?
Yeah, yeah.
But anyway, it seems like we don't necessarily have to put all our cards on the table, so to speak.
Well, I mean, it was definitely a change in approach that they brought in the town council to advise them at the planning board meeting.
Mhm.
And she took a very active role.
If we're saying the zoning board did not consult with us, it sounds a little bit Are we painting the town in a bad light such that they actually don't
Well,
have a strong case?
the problem is that the zoning board said that this plan acts to conserve the characteristics of the property. That's a real problem.
Yeah, so whether they consulted with us or not isn't really the issue. It's,
Yeah.
You know, the fact is the planning board doesn't always consult with us, and we had a problem with this other development up here where they didn't let us know that they had radically changed it. But, you know, it's really a matter of, are they following the rules or not, right? Or,
Well, it was brought up that the zoning board specifically said that made this statement, and, you know, I think we should be on record as saying we don't.
I don't know if there's a way to say that and be on the record, but without
yeah,
saying the point and pointing the zoning board out.
are you
Yeah, no, I'm
open to amending that part of it?
sure. I mean, the commission can amend this any way it wants. I have no strong attachment to anything in particular. It's fine.
And some of the things Jack mentioned,
You could just,
in terms of some of the details about the way in which their plan is different from the intent of the intent of the ordinance, if not the specific words of the ordinance, or in our earlier statement. Right?
Right.
That
Yeah.
we said that
Quoted it quite a bit.
well, that I had sent, I had communicated with John Driscoll about sending that. And there's, I mean, this is more in the lawyer's terrain, but there was that issue of the Supreme Court ruling where the planning board, I don't remember what town it was, but they did lose.
Mhm.
But the Supreme Court made a very specific statement that the fact that they lost did not preclude the fact that these are not, you know, you cannot come up with simple prescriptive formulas.
Mhm.
And that intent needs to be taken into account. And I think the lawyer for the Young Road project at the last meeting denied that that was what they said. It was very clearly what they said. So, you know, I don't, you know, that probably is more a friend of the court brief than anything else that would go into. I don't know if we want to get mixed up.
Yeah. Well, the thing I'm talking about, Mike, is way back when this all started. We talked about it and came up with a statement of our problem with it. And I wonder if we shouldn't be, I don't have it in front of me, Doug's got it, it's what you sent to Vanessa.
Yeah. Well, I think you were chair at that point. This was a year ago now.
Yeah, it is a year ago, that's right.
Exactly.
Who knew? What?
Was it entered into the record of the
Well, that's what
documents?
Yeah, I'm
was sent,
sure.
it was sent to Vanessa,
Oh, okay.
and so she's got that. And so that must be something that I said
Yeah,
to
I'm
Vanessa.
pretty sure.
And so perhaps we should endorse this and resubmit what I sent a year ago and say, you know, just as a reminder, this is still the position of the Conservation Commission. The concerns we have then, this still stands. And I'm sure I can dig that out of my hard drive.
Yeah.
Plus what Paul said last month, that's where we are too. We're doubling down. Gosh darn it.
Yeah.
So if there is a planning board meeting on Tuesday, will you get a chance to have input again?
Well, it's not entirely clear. It's actually
clear.
pretty good about public
Yeah,
comment.
they are.
I am definitely going to
If
be.
there is a meeting, I mean, it's on the agenda for sure.
The other thing I just want to throw in, because of my recollection, because I happened to be at that planning board meeting too, was that the town attorney at several points said, why don't we leave this particular issue until we get more information? I'll be tasked with getting that information. I'll bring it back and then we can move forward with, you know, more information about whatever.
That suggests that it's not gonna be baked, fully baked until.
Yeah, unless
Yeah.
they've communicated, individually.
Well, they're not supposed to. I mean, it's supposed to be in the public meeting, right?
Okay.
Yeah, well, even if they did talk privately, then they now have to make it
But
public.
there's a specifically quoted 617.
Transparency.
It's on slopes. And you've got the.
But
golf
you're right,
club,
there
it's
were
one
definitely
here,
some
it's
outstanding
used for
issues
street.
that they wanted more.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
that's kind of been the game all along, is piling on more stuff. But this was the first meeting where they had attorneys there, so it's clearly, ramped up to a higher level.
Yeah, they both bought machines and stuff.
Can I ask you a quick question? Just so it's more for my own clarity than anything, but when the Back Keenan Road project was being discussed, I had a quick chat with the developer afterward. And said, so if the town rejects it, do you just walk away? And he said, oh, no. If they reject this version of the plan, we'll come back with another one, but eventually we'll develop that.
Yeah, they certainly can.
And the same is true of Beyond Road. I mean,
Well, that's what I was gonna
Barrington
ask.
has a lot of money invested in this. He's not going to just give it out.
The one distinction in both cases, I guess, especially if they do reset, is that the rules kick in. Not that they're gonna stop it, but all this stuff we voted on at the town meeting, all that is gonna apply if they do a reset, I believe.
I think that's.
There's like a
probably-
year, they have a year to either complete it or,
Well, I think they would
Well,
have to
something
submit a new application if
Right.
it's denied, so it
And then-
starts again.
the clock gets wound back. That's, we understand, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
that's what it is. Sure.
So that's one, important thing is that it makes it a little more tougher. We've seen cases elsewhere where, the developer kind of, they gotta go back to square one, basically. It's a lot tougher, so.
Does it seem like they bit off a bad piece of land to try to develop just because of the difficulties inherent in it?
Well, it seems that way to us, but, obviously, they have a different take on it.
We should probably.
Yeah.
If it's up to me, they wouldn't have developed the other side of the road either. The developer actually lives in the nicest, the choicest spot, which I believe I wasn't on the commission at the time, but we objected to that because it's so close to the beaver pond. It's upstream of the big prime wetlands. So, but in any case, this.
You used to live on it.
Yeah. I mean, I know that land pretty well. Just anybody. I didn't own it, unfortunately, but.
Which brings me back to what I said about the engineer, having said, well, you approved stuff in the past. You didn't look at it that closely, so you should approve this one, which is again, back to the foul of a basketball game.
Yeah, or it's the, you didn't pull the other guy
You didn't
over
call-
speeding,
Yeah.
but I put the cop and go, but I caught you.
Well, and part of it is, and this might have been, I think Andy might have said this, he said, just because we made mistakes in the past doesn't mean we have to carry them forward into the future. The trouble is, I don't know how precedent plays into that in the legal context. I just don't know.
That would only be true if it were discriminatory, which it isn't. It's for cause.
Yeah.
The thing is a stinker. That's a technical
Okay,
term.
yeah, right. Well, I didn't know that was the legality there. Okay.
So are we ready to move
I think
Motion.
this needs to be rewritten a little bit. So, I mean, obviously I cannot speak for the CC, doesn't belong in there.
Let's speak for what?
That first sentence has. to
Yeah,
go.
of course. Well, we don't need the exact wording, but I think we all.
I guess I'm just recommending that, I was looking at 6.1 through 6.9 there, the provision, and some of them, they seem to, I'll use his word, make a mockery. But maybe we should list the ones that specifically that, instead of making the people reading that wondering, well, what.
Well, again, aren't those what we referenced in the previous
They were,
memo?
yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
so
yeah.
if we attach it to the other memo, it'd make more sense. They can go back and look at.
Well, either attach it or go back and list those and put them in.
Yeah.
Because there's things here about off the street and erosion control, stuff like that.
I would think we could approve the content of that and give Paul,
Yeah.
you know,
Discretion.
clearance to change a bit of language if he, you know, maybe mockery is,
Yeah.
it's the right word, but maybe the wrong word.
Yeah.
And
I would like a suggestion because
Undercuts, I mean, sure there.
Fails to meet the spirit.
I could just
Yeah.
say contradicts.
Contradict.
contradicts.
Yeah.
Yes,
There's a
delete.
typo, U dates means is minutes. Nothing in the U dates.
Updates.
Updates. Yeah, but I thought it was that.
Some other typos in there too.
Yeah, and replace the first sentence, because now you will be speaking on behalf of us.
Yeah. And I suppose we ought to submit it to him beforehand, right? At least to the
Sure.
chair and
Yeah,
Vanessa
submit that and I'll,
one day.
at whatever you like, I'll either submit what I wrote a year ago or I'll send it to you and you can.
Yeah, I probably have a copy of it. I'm sure I
Okay.
saved it, so
Yeah.
I'll
and
let
say-
you know if I don't.
Yeah, and
Think we're ready.
just say, this was good a year ago, it's good now.
All right.
How's this? I think that might capture.
The second sentence where you've got this is clear demonstrated should.
Oh, yeah, that was the typo I was looking. This doesn't.
So Dan or Ann, do you have any comments on this at this point? Or-
No, I think it makes you know, that referral that was made about the argument that things have been done before and nobody said anything. I think it makes a point for not having things done in the first place that are not according to the rules and regulations. You know what I mean? It's harder to make an argument for going against our regulations if it's been done before. So that's what I'm saying is we should be careful of making precedents.
Well, at this point, it's not a legal argument exactly, but
And I don't
it's-
think we
could
should,
become one.
I don't think we should try to make the legal argument.
No, it's not our job.
Right.
But clearly, and other people told me this as well, the town often fudges a lot of the details on
Yeah.
you know, the rules, and obviously some of the rules are not all that hard and fast, or we obviously have to keep updating them.
Well, I mean,
You know.
this town is a collection of, well, I'll quote my neighborhood, a whole crap load of non-conforming lots, because rules were either, they weren't present at the time.
But that's grandfather.
It's grandfathering in, but I have to warn some of my new neighbors that just because you see something in the
Right,
neighborhood,
doesn't mean.
you can't do it to your house,
Right.
because the building inspector will come by and say, no
Forward,
way.
Yeah, right.
And the same thing goes, now if somebody put in a conservation subdivision that had the same problems as the one proposed, and they did it 2 years ago, that might be part of a case that we have.
And the conservation subdivision business in Barrington has evolved hugely. I mean, right where Ann lives, in the original conservation subdivision rules, the planning board forgot, I don't know what happened, didn't put in what percentage of the property needed to be in conservation. And then when the developer of Village Place came forth and only had whatever the percentage was, it was like 30%, I think. And the planning board said, no, that's enough, you should do more. And the attorney for the developer said, see you in court. And the planning board backed off, changed the rules for the following year. Then next one comes along and the conserved land is wet. And again,
Yeah.
the planning board has to cave. Oh, we forgot to think about
It's
it
like
being,
whack-a-mole.
Yeah.
being wet. So then they changed the rule again and said a certain percentage has to be upland. And that's the current rule. This one will generate more rules.
Yeah, well, it already has.
And on and on and on. And
Recall some of the zoning changes. One of them was yield plan. It turns out Paul notices the existing rules, you know, as of
never, don't use. it.
don't mention yield plan, you know, even though they all did it and claimed that the yield plan showed, well, you get 23 houses, you know, and if it, you know, and of course they changed some of the details.
That
so.
may have been the best thing you did, Paul.
I don't know that I did that.
Well, you mentioned it. I mean, obviously they
Yes.
came up with it.
Coincided
Yeah,
with
yeah.
some
And,
changes.
So I'm sure they all realized like, whoa, it isn't there.
And
Yeah. Well, hopefully we can help set some new precedents.
drag this on further
Yeah.
and this.
So we're ready for
I
a
think it-
motion.
Does this statement capture what we want to say? Because we can move that be adopted. as a motion.
Except for the Italian conservatione.
Well, instead of I, it would be we, right?
Yeah.
The last sentence.
Yeah.
And I gather we don't want to say anything about further support.
I
Looking at.
Sorry, Dan. No.
oh, so
Ken, whatever you had.
for me, do we need to say discretionary? If we like to, that's fine. It's not a bad word.
Well, it is a discretionary thing, isn't
Yeah,
it?
sure.
At this point, we.
That's
can-
fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's us also telling them we understand that they have the power. And we're just recommend,
Yeah.
we're urging, we can't, we want to vote.
What I was trying to say there was that you can take intent into account. It doesn't have to be a strict
Yeah.
word.
And maybe, again, up to you, but a further sentence that if the planning board does so, the Conservation Commission will be in full support.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Leave it open, but
Yeah,
saying
we're
we're behind.
options or rents or anything.
Although
Just saying, whatever
if anybody
transpires.
reads our minutes, they'll know there's a flamethrower in the room.
Always don't wear walls.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, I guess we need to vote on that so that we can say full support.
Well, yeah, obviously. So is that the motion then to prove that as?
I would move that as written.
Second is
Second.
Jack.
Okay, all in favor? All right,
Aye.
You got Dan?
Dan,
Dan?
okay,
Yeah.
all right,
You want me to
unanimous.
send that to you?
Yes, please.
Okay, all right, great, thanks. So we'll, we'll see what happens Tuesday, but
Is this to be read at the planning board?
if they give us a chance, we'll certainly submit it to them and
Okay.
We'll submit it to Vanessa Price, the town planner,
and
Oh,
the
okay.
chair. Then we.
and the chair of the planning.
Yeah, depending on what their strategy is for this, there may be a better time to bring this up than where they're at in the process. You know, we can't, I don't want to, we can't play the game that they may be doing if they are intent on denying this.
Yeah, but if it gets submitted into the docket, then it's gotta be there, it'll be public, so.
Yeah, well, I kind of hope that it would make a statement to the board members and to the opposing party that, you know, they're not on this alone, that other people see this.
Right. Yeah. Okay, well, it's,
All of Paul's work and it doesn't get read.
no,
But it's there.
Yeah,
yeah,
There, in a folder.
but still its job will be read and needed.
yeah, we'll see. We don't have a whole lot else, just a few kind of news items, really. Richardson Pond Eco Study. I did get the proposal from Mark West and signed it, sent it back to him to get a official invoice. We'll submit to Connor. So that seems to be moving forward. I did come out under 15,000 like we discussed.
Does it go to Connor or does it go to me?
Well, I mean, somebody, you don't actually write the check.
No, but I usually have to submit other paperwork.
Yeah, I mean, I'll CC you. Certainly you should have the.
Well, I assume it come from our funds. It's gonna
Right.
go through me. and-
Yeah, yeah.
Unless you've convinced Connor to pay for it.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't done this before, so I don't know what the
Yeah.
proper procedure is, but I'll
Just
send
cover
it,
your boss.
send it to both of you and whatever.
I will need help with identifying the meeting. Do it.
Oh, that's true. I suppose we'll need, yeah.
But
Submit the
I'll
minutes.
rely on her because she's got
Okay,
the photographic memory.
yeah. And monitoring, Gary's not here, so I guess next meeting he'll tell us what. I thought there were some ones in April. but hopefully
Yeah,
not.
he's still on the cruise, right?
I believe so.
I think so.
Haven't heard from him, so
I thought it was Arizona. Okay.
whatever, some trip, some.
Either a desert or it's from the ocean. One of the two.
The point raised was great, by the way.
Ah,
Yes. And I don't suppose we have anything. The Lands Committee?
No.
Anything new there? Any other business? Other committees, Trails Committee? Anything new there?
We're still planning on doing our eclipse hike. We're kind of hoping it might be a little warmer and drier, but because we got rain now tomorrow,
Yeah.
3 days, possibly middle of next week. The snow will be all gone, but it might not be as pleasant up on the cliff, but we've already got like 14 or 15 people signed up. And I think we're gonna have classes for everybody. Yeah.
There was one other thing. So Rob, this is in regards to the statement that we're going to make for the planning board regarding the solar installations in town and the recommendation for them that both the CC and the Energy Commission are supposed to chime in.
Select board,
Yeah.
strategic solar, right?
Right, so I have started drafting that, the commission should start thinking about what its take on the criteria are as far as land quality goes. Ours is gonna be more technical. From the energy committee. I would urge you to look at, and I can try to pull out some of those documents on, public opinion towards development of properties for solar use and where the preference lies, where it runs into opposition, so disturbed versus undisturbed land, things like that. Try to pull that out.
Okay, so hopefully by next meeting, we'll have something to work with.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. Dan or Ann, do you have anything else?
No, I'm happy that we're gonna send this letter, because like I said last time, I certainly approve of it.
Yeah,
Same here.
okay.
Yep.
So sightings, the folks seeing out there.
The birds are back.
Yeah.
I've seen
Numbers.
birds, there's been some weird things going through.
Towies,
I haven't seen them yet, but they
We
do
used to
come
have
out.
towies all the time. I haven't seen them in years.
Regardless of the birds, right now your bird feeders are bear feeders, so please. take
Yeah,
it.
the bears are.
yeah,
we got attacked.
robins,
Robins,
That's right.
mourning doves,
the grackles have come through
Yeah.
again in multiple ways.
Yeah.
ducks on the pond.
Yeah, we had about a dozen ring-billed duck, ring-neck ducks. They have a ring on their bill, but for some reason they call them ring-neck ducks. I don't get it, but they're just passing through. I guess they head north for the summer, but
At Point Reyes, there are elk, elephant seals.
Right.
seemed like there was something else I saw lately.
Well, the fact that the last two places that burn coal in the state now have
Oh,
Oh, yeah, that's worth mentioning since I spent a lot of my life.
Bow now got
Yeah.
it's a 25.
I'm
38.
Yeah,
I
it's
missed
like
the
4
beginning
years
of it.
off. The coal
The-
plants in New Hampshire are going to.
Oh, I saw that.
They have end of coal burning and they're gonna convert them to one, I think the one in Portsmouth is gonna be like batteries.
Big batteries, yeah.
Yeah,
And I don't know exactly what
they said maybe a solar farm, but they're just saying clean energy, which could mean nuclear. I mean.
Yeah, I hope they're not gonna.
I'm still kind of.
If they come out and say clean coal, you know it doesn't
Yeah.
exist.
It's most likely it'll be something renewable.
Oh, sorry, the place on the river in, is it,
Portsmouth.
no, yeah, is it Newington or Portsmouth?
Well, it's right on the border. The Schiller plant is in Portsmouth and there's a Newington plant, which actually
That was
isn't
fire.
retiring. It's an oil and gas plant.
Didn't they have a wood burning?
Yeah, and then there's the wood burning, which is one of the Schiller boilers that was converted to burning wood. And I think it's going to continue because that's profitable, although there've been issues raised about it not really being sustainable either. But,
And what are they gonna do with the, when they phase out the coal? They're
Well-
gonna, batteries?
yeah, that's a proposal. It's not anywhere near happening yet, but the idea is that they would set up a battery farm, if you will, like we're talking big industrial batteries the size of this building, and they could store tens or hundreds of megawatt hours of electricity, and they're right on the node in the regional grid. And I follow this, of course, because I'm obsessed with offshore wind, and one of the possibilities is that an offshore wind power line could come from out in the Gulf of Maine and connect up to Portsmouth, and it could charge those batteries, at night when they don't need the power, and then it's available during prime time. And that's one of the great ideas of how to make it all work.
Yeah, these are these farms
Save
of
us out.
containerized batteries.
Mhm.
They're mostly.
In my imagination, it's like a car battery the size of this building with an anode here.
Yeah.
And clamp.
Yeah.
Or it could be like some of the other batteries you buy where you open them up and all they are is a bunch of double A cells.
Yeah, Well, I believe they're a little more.
Well, that's what battery means.
Yeah.
It means a
Oh,
cell
yeah.
cell.
I know, but I looked inside the battery for my e-bike. It's all just a bunch of double A's.
Yeah. Well, these will probably be a little more. I hear there's some good innovations, though. They're not all going to be lithium batteries like you have in your hybrid or electric car. There's ones that are iron, I guess, and they don't work well for cars.
There's
because
flow
they don't have
batteries.
it.
And there's a lot of different technologies out there, and they're not practical at small scale.
But at this level, they would. And the great thing with Schiller is that they've got a dock. I mean, they could bring them right up on a ship, and just, and they got the cranes and everything. So it wouldn't be that hard. It would be relatively easy to site them. With the bow plan, it's a little more complicated, I guess. Anyway, I know more than this than I ever want to say, but the key thing is they've got several years to figure it out because the deal is, and really there's not anything new in this because the folks that run the regional grid had determined that they don't deserve to get what they call forward capacity subsidy. Essentially, it's a pot of money that they get for being available, being on standby for peak power. And so I believe Bo was set already to have that, through 2027. So in 2028, they ain't gonna have any money anyway, and that's what they were surviving on because they weren't generating all that much power. And with Schiller, they haven't even been running it for like 4 or 5 years, so it's kind of dead in the water anyway. So I kind of feel like this is almost a non-issue, but obviously it's very important that we have a deadline. So
And a commitment to doing something else, even if we don't know what it is.
The dynamic is further confused by the fact that the leading port on the East Coast that ships coal ain't shipping anything right now.
well, yeah, that too.
They said like 20% of the coal that leaves this country went up to
Yeah.
Baltimore.
Is that
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
other countries, because a lot of them are still burning. Okay, and of
Yeah.
course, there are places in the United States still burning it, but if it makes it to Port of Baltimore, it's going to ship,
Right.
but not anymore.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine any other port would say, "Oh, all right, we're going to put in a facility to handle this."
Yeah.
That's a
And
Yeah.
God knows how fast.
I don't know if
they'll
that
open that
would
up
have
again.
affected them, but obviously it doesn't help. They actually were getting a third of their coal at the Bow plant from Colombia. If you can believe it, they have a huge coal mine down there. And there are a lot of issues with that, but because it used to be, rainforest, right? They don't have rules down there, so.
Yeah, you can-
But anyway, and they were under a big dispute about their coal deliveries as well. Evidently, they were being sued by this other company, or they were suing each other. And it was very complicated.
So you can take out all the trees, but don't take out any of those poppy plants.
I sent Paul an article this week. Was it Shell? It's gonna
Yeah.
close like 1,000 gas stations. They want to start
How
focusing
did you
on
find that?
electric charge.
Wow.
Yeah. I was hoping it was going to be Irving, because I thought Irving is more progressive that way, but Shell was going to.
Does anyone know,
Well, Shell is Dutch.
slightly relevant, does anyone know where the charging stations are at Wentworth Douglas Hospital? There are 4.
I
And
would
they're free.
think the parking, but they have a central parking.
They have a garage.
Yeah,
they have lots
Yeah.
on the south
and
end.
They may be able to on site.
I've been there several times
Yeah.
and I've not seen them.
Somebody at the front desk ought to know.
Yeah,
I'm
you have
gonna-
to go in and
I'm gonna guess the garage, because keeping them on the weather.
Yeah.
And I parked in the south lot a lot as part of my Ready Rides job.
Huh.
Never saw one there. I rarely go into the garage.
call them up. I'm doing occupational therapy for something, so.
You're gonna have to get there real early because they get taken very quickly. If it's like Exeter Hospital.
Yeah. Just curious.
Someone suggested putting a charger in the library.
Oh, great. We were at that
That could be a
meeting.
bigger flowers.
I don't know. I just think we're
I was at the site, the site meeting, and the charrette's coming up on the 4th. I might have a conflict.
So if you have strong feelings about that, you can come put in your 2 cents worth, I guess.
The only thing I recommend, there are apps out there that can help you find chargers.
In other news, if we're done with sightings, I want to move to adjourn.
Well, I actually had one small item. The coal plants, just because I've been obsessed with it so long, they were actually the #1 source of mercury, and mercury was one of the great reasons why our loons are having such big trouble. And they actually found the highest levels of mercury in loons here in Barrington on Mendham's Pond and Stones Lake. This was 20 years ago now.
70s.
I actually broke that story in the local media. It was an outfit out of Maine that did the actual testing, if you believe it. They caught the loons, did a blood test, they checked the eggs, and they had the highest levels measured anywhere in North America. The good news is obviously it's come down because they've cleaned up their act, not completely, but quite a bit, like 90%. And so they're probably no longer the highest in the country. But I was just reading a thing today. A guy who's in the fish and game department, had been previously, he sampled some fish from lakes also downwind of Bow, and they had the highest levels measured anywhere in the country. So, it was very clear, at least to us folks that care about science and stuff. Anyway, it's going to be a lot better going forward. It already is, because they really aren't burning. But just so in case you didn't know, coal really is nasty
So
stuff.
now loons don't have to worry about mercury, but they got to worry about the aberrant water levels we keep having, because
Yeah, I mean,
really
there's
messed up.
obviously other issues.
They messed on the edge.
Climate, I'm sure is, yeah, they depend on the water. One other thing I'll mention, not related to this, but somewhat related, this is the 45th anniversary of the 3 Mile Island accident. So just for the record, there's a lot of people talking about, oh, nukes aren't so bad and nothing happened to 3 Mile Island. Well, that's not true. And I was just at an environmental film festival and they were showing this pro-nuclear film. I was tasked with, critiquing it in like 5 minutes. I don't know how good a job I did, but it's an ongoing battle there. So I guess we can move to adjourn. Did you have something outside of?
No.
Okay.
Second.
Okay.
Thank you,
All
everyone.
right. Thanks.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks.
Good Thank you. Good night.
Everybody.
Good night, Andy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you want to talk Chernobyl? That was a cluster.
Yeah.